on. We need to warm up. I tried to find jokes, but I couldn't find one. So welcome. I hope you had a good party. For the first time, we was not in IBM, but we test a new formula, which I guess was a good one. I have good news, by the way. I've signed a new member last night, very late, on the napkins, you know, like in a Silicon Valley. So that's what a good investment in time for us. Yesterday, we went into a journey to understand exactly what trust means and betrayed, yin and yang. So we list many issues related to trust. Today, we're going to have a different view on the future. We are going to make some perspective and see what is the future of trust. What are the key elements that will change our perception with trust? How does it change our lives? How it influences our behaviors? What are the next generation of technology that will imply trust? Who will be the next generation trust advisors? And I think we have excellent panels, a lot of discussion. And my pleasure is also now to welcome Marjorie, who will be our MC for the next 8 hours. So
maybe not that much at 8 hours. I mean, I'm finishing at the end of this plenary session at 1. But, but if you want to go on until 8, that's your choice. Yeah. Anyways, good morning to you. Of course, we're back on stage for the second day of the DigiWorld Summit 2016. If you want to join the conversation, it's happening on Twitter anytime, and the hashtag is DWS16. If you want to send reactions, tweets, or even questions to the members of the panel. And speaking of change, the very first segment this morning will be dedicated to game changers. Of course, you know this word, disruption. When it comes to the digital economy, there's two main sectors that have been disrupted over the past few months and years, transportation and finance. We'll deep dive into those two sectors through trust and see how actually trust is totally changing the game when it comes to those business models. First, let's talk about transportation and mobility. And to open this session, I'm really pleased to welcome on stage Patrice BELIE, CEO of Hub1. And your mic is going to be open in a few seconds. Good morning to you, Patrice. Patrice, tell me if I'm not mistaken, but Hub1 is a leading communications operator for large airports. Well, actually, and you're joined by two of our speakers right now. Well, I mean, those guys are, are directly jumping into the stage. Okay, that's a rebel panel. That's a game changer and rebel panel.
That's what we were asked to do, so.
Okay, wonderful. I like it. Even when it comes to larger airports, as far as you're a communication operator for those, how are you disrupted, and how do you respond to those evolutions?
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here this morning and listening to the transportation game changers. Actually, yes, as Hub1, we are a 100% subsidiary of Paris Aéroport, and we are a leading IT and telecoms operator for major airports. So we're seeing lots of change, but this is not the only job we do. We are also very involved in transportation and logistics, and so we are seeing a lot of change happening also with our customers about the way how goods are transported, about how people use transportation, and even in the transportation systems and equipment themselves. And with the rise of computerization, actually there comes the question of trust. How can I trust a computer? Here are a few questions for your thought process. As a driver in any given vehicle, how much autonomy am I willing to give and hand over to a computer? As a passenger, how will I trust the autonomy of the self-driving vehicle without raising highly my level of anxiety? Actually getting to a more difficult question, and ethical and difficult question. As computers are going to try and avoid accidents, well, in the case of an unavoidable accident, how are computers going to decide which is the less worse event? Or how am I going to make the less casualties? Tomorrow, what products are going insurance companies, what kind of products are going insurance companies to offer us? You know, how will they insure us? I'm in a self-driving vehicle that's connected. Can it be hacked? Can the network, the telecoms network it is relying on, be hacked? These are all questions that relate, in the end, to security and safety. And trust in the transportation industry is based on security and safety are the two fundamental concepts, the driving forces behind any transportation system. Security is about physical security, meaning I am free of aggression. Safety is about the system ensuring that there is no accident. Okay. Once we've said that, we can also draw some lessons from, you know, other businesses. Actually, in rail transportation, and I'm coming from originally from the business of rail signaling, you can see that we have been in self-driving vehicles for a long time. Actually, when we were preparing this session, one of my comrades here, Laurent, reminded me that the Lille Metro was opened with Keolis as an operator and Matra as an equipment manufacturer as a fully automated metro in the early 80s. And that's because, let's say, that was the easy part, because in a metro system, actually, or in any given rail system, you are in a closed circuit system. You know, it's a track, it's rolling stock, it's a catenary. There are telecoms and signaling systems to avoid accidents and make route control. But in the end, you know, it's a closed system, so all elements can be relatively easily coordinated, and we will see it will be way more difficult in an open environment like road transportation. In aviation, where Hub 1 is very active, we can see, you know, that we all know as travelers actually that you know, planes can be also automated, and you can have a flight with an automatic pilot over the Atlantic overnight without a problem, just in the case that there are normal conditions. In case of more complex conditions, then, you know, a driver, the pilot takes over, and this is only happening during flight. You know, we know that, we know for certain that, you know, when on ground, either while taxiing or stationed, an airplane is actually relying mostly on very robust human-based processes, not computers. So automation is still to come there. Last but not least, road transportation is, you know, what the world is about these days. And, you know, there's a lot of noise and action around the exciting development of, you know, the self-driving vehicle and the various degrees to which, you know, the vehicle can be connected, half automated, completely automated. And actually, this contradicts the fundamental rules of road transportation, because road transportation essentially relies on the Vienna Convention. The Vienna Convention tells that there is a capable driver on board the vehicle. As you're handing over responsibility to a computer, well, there's a game changer. So how can I trust this? We've got here two speakers along with us to help us answer the question. Laurent KOCHER, who works for Keolis and heads marketing innovation services, if I'm not mistaken. Patrice BELIE, who works for Valeo, and Patrice is in charge of innovation and collaboration for Valeo. So, Laurent, we are seeing, you know, maybe a few words about how trust and this relationship to trust actually changes the way how you operate transportation networks.
Yes, so good morning, everybody. In fact, in public transportation, trust has always been a key point, as obviously we move people, we transport people, in some cases at high speed, and we operate in public environments. So we are in vehicles which are collective vehicles, we are in stations, in bus stops, tram stops. So obviously trust is a way and a need, of course, to answer the potential risks. And as you mentioned, the potential risks are safety and security. Just to give you two examples, one which is, I would say, an old one, but still of actuality, is putting the seatbelt in coaches. You may have seen that we have recently launched a new press action to emphasize the fact that it's absolutely critical. A second one, which is more related to technology, is mobile ticketing. More on security side, how do we ensure that we master fraud when the ticket is on the mobile and not on a card anymore? And how do you validate how you are able to be controlled in the public transportation? So it's absolutely key, and new technologies are in fact providing more risks, but also more opportunities. Also, two examples, in terms of risk, obviously it's about cybersecurity, hacking vehicles, and so taking control of vehicles at a distance is absolutely something we absolutely need to avoid, and it's critical. But also giving us new opportunities, as we may figure out that with self-driving vehicles we may have less accidents. And so, of course, it will protect better our lives when we are traveling, when we are moving. The last point for me is that, and we'll come back to that maybe later on, is it's not only technology, it's regulation, and it's behaviors. And so I think what we have to handle to build this trust in this new environment is, of course, to master technology, but also to master and make the regulation evolve properly. And it's very complex. And lastly, but not, it's also very important, is to understand how the passengers' behavior will change and how they will adapt to this new technology environment.
Thank you, Laurent. How about you, Patrice? How about Valeo?
Yeah, so I will be talking about the car that is going increasingly more automated, and with 2 points. The first one related to the technology, and the other one related to the human-machine interface, the end user. So for the technology, what we see is that we started with the ultrasonic sensors for parking, beginning of 90s. After ultrasonic sensors, we have implemented cameras. We're in production with all big car makers, like Mercedes, Audi, and so on, BMW, with surround view. So you have 4 cameras around the car that gives you a perspective of all the surrounding in your car. You have now radar in the front of the car, front cameras, and next year we are going to introduce laser scanner at Audi for the next stage of automated driving. So the key word here is redundancy of sensors. Some people say which sensor will be established, will eliminate the others. It doesn't happen. There will be a redundancy of sensors, and Valeo masters all these technologies in order to provide increasingly level of automation. So, and there are also redundancy at brake levels, control unit, and so on. So, but that's, I would say, the technical part. We found out in our research, because in our group, innovation group, we have also end-user research. We did research in Japan, China, US, France, Germany. And we found everywhere that one of the key points from the end-user perspective was trust. So can I trust this car? And what we found out is that people are, you make etapes, so stages, steps, and we need to each time to give trust so that they trust, to help them gaining trust in the systems. And we found out that the human-machine interface has to be very we have to work a lot on it, and we call that intuitive driving automation. Automation alone is not enough. It has to be intuitive, and it has to disappear, but at the same the technology has to disappear, but at the same time giving trust to the end user. So we are developing, and we have teams that are focused on that. How can we build trust, reassuring the people for the next step? And we found out that there is some diversity, for example, in Japan compared to Europe, and I will just give that as an example. For Europe and the US, we have developed in the automated mode, so partial automation, a view of around the car based on the perception that our sensors have, so that people can understand what the machine or the future, the robot sees, so they can relate to what he is seeing. And we did that, and it has we did studies, and all the people in Europe, US found that terribly good. In Japan, they said, but I don't need that in the automated mode. Maybe in the partial automation, it's interesting, but if it's automated, I trust you. It's fine. The government has validated that the car was safe to run on the road. I don't need it. I can do something else. So there are still some variation between the words, but we have to think always redundancy, technologies, and the other side, acceptance of the end users and intuitive driving automation.
Excellent, thank you. You have driven, your two companies have had a lot of experience and experiments, and we can even see that Keolis recently made a lot of attracted a lot of attention, developing a service based on self-driving vehicles in Lyon. Maybe we can ask the backstage to launch the video from Mr. KOCHER, Keolis, and then we'll ask you, Laurent, about what feedback and what lessons were learned from this.
So yes, as you have seen in this short movie, it's the first worldwide regular service we have launched on September the 2nd in Lyon. It covers 1.3 kilometers. It joins a tram stop with a fully autonomous vehicle, 100% autonomous, 100% electric. It's a regular service from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. on working days, and it's so joining the tram stop towards a new business area called Confluence in Lyon. 1.3 kilometers. As you have seen, there are no car traffic in a public road. There are some cars, there are passengers, there are pedestrians, there are bicycles, some obstacles. And of course, for us, it's a way to test and to get some feedback. The first one is about technology, as I mentioned. So the technology is working. We still have to make it a little bit more robust to make sure we have a fully reliable service on a day-to-day basis. But it's working for now 2.5 months. I mean, it has been a success from a technical standpoint. The second one is regulation. We have been through quite a complex process, as of course, for the time being, as you mentioned, with the Vienna Convention, you have to get in board, it's not said a person, it's said a driver, a vigilant driver. The question is whether this vigilant driver could be someone else or something else than a human being. And so for the time being, it's forbidden, but you are able to get a derogation, in France. So we have been through this process. I have to say that it has been very well supported by the different government agencies, meaning, of course, the Ministry of Interior, Transportation, and Economy and Finance. And so, but there are, of course, several hurdles, also about insurance, about, security tests, and we have been asked to put someone who is not driving. There is no driving wheel, but someone to get the people on board and to make sure we can welcome the people and make them travel in security. The last point, which is maybe even more important, is the feedback about the behavior of the people. And in fact, it has been very well received. In fact, on the 31st of October, so it was un pont in French, banking holidays maybe, and we had queues of people willing to test and use the service. And within a few seconds or a few minutes, in fact, you forget the fact that there is no drivers. So basically, we consider that acceptance will be maybe quite easy if we are able to master the two first points.
Very good, thank you, Laurent. It's very useful feedback. And Patrice, you also came with an experiment of yours and some ideas that also you derived from your car labs. So what is it that you want to show us today?
Yeah. So what we found out beyond automation, there is another trend is that people want to have something where that is personalized and contextualized. Today you enter a car, could be the car of everybody. It's the same settings, and the car does not know that it's you. In the future, we think the car will completely adjust to you yourself within a learning process, like today your smartphone or your tablet is doing. It's yours, it's not the one from somebody else. And secondly, it will be adapted, contextualized to where you are. You don't necessarily drive the same or need the same stuff if you are going to buy a croissant, taking your kids to classes or to the school, or driving to work or going on holidays. And I think the car needs to know that and to adapt to it. And for that, we'll use a lot of things that are coming really in the mass market, like Internet of Things, big data, data analytics, and communication. But as these technologies, especially the communication, cannot be there 100% of the time, we have to find something specific, because ambient telecommunication may be there in 15 years, but we think we can make an impact already today. And that's the idea beyond what the video you will see. It's a kind of hybrid architecture for the learning car, with the learning in the cloud and personalization and contextualization of the driving user experience inside the car. So just the video, please. Thank you.
And final comments for you, gentlemen, before we do move on to the next segment.
So, yeah, just to finish, so we are going to make that happen with a company that is called CloudMade, a startup based in Silicon Valley and also in Ukraine. And we are thrilled to launch this cooperation since last week.
Yeah, last word, speaking about trust, I would say that we are very confident that we'll be able to improve the life in cities with public transportation, with more heavy modes on one side and robo-taxi, robo-shuttles, self-driving vehicles on the other in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes, well, thank you, gentlemen. I think we've had a look at the panel of transportation systems and the future of these. We don't expect, completely automated vehicles before 2030 or so, I understand, Patrice, but, we're gaining gradually there as trust is building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the three of you, Laurent KOCHER, Patrice REILHAC, and Patrice BELIE.